Cowboy started with um, ranchers that had went off to war, the Civil War, as they want to say. And while they was going to Civil War, the black people were at the ranch running down the cows, taking care of the cows, taking care of the horses, and got kind of good at it because they were horsemen. Uh, well, the war over, so these guys coming back, but slaves been emancipated. And instead of having free labor, they were forced to start to have to pay these guys to do the same labor to catch their cattle up and fix their ranches back up, because in Texas there's a big thing with horse and big thing with cattle. And here you got all these slaves or ex-slaves that are familiar with that, and low-wage workers. And what you'd have on a working ranch is a cowhand, is what they call a white man, and they call a cowboy a black man. It was a derogatory word, still is in certain places and stuff, but in today's atmosphere, cowboy is something everybody's into. I want to be a cowboy. Well, back in the beginning of this, cowboy was something that they used to degrade a black man, but it stuck around. Everybody that's still into it or into it today have different people in their family or associates or what have you that were into horses and skilled at different things like farrier work, cattlemanship, horsemen, training horse, you name it, we've done it as a black person. We've all done it, male and female. I see some girls that get down and ride way better than the guys, but so I'm excited every time I see a black person up on a horse or interested in it. And I try to get as many kids as I can to tell them everything I know about horses, because I don't want it to just die with me, because somebody gave it to me. So I'll tell you, I was not a cowboy. I was a city boy. And I got into being a cowboy myself because my dad had the horse for me when I got out of the VA hospital for PTSD. And these animals kind of changed everything for me. Went from just being therapy to a way of life, because once you start having a horse or caring for them, they become part of the family. And I'd say I had 3 or 4 guys that influenced me greatly. Mr. Wayne, he's a black man, but he's half Indian as well. And he showed me how to train horses. Matter of fact, the first couple horses that we had out, he trained personally for us. And this young kid named Moot taught me how to ride. And that was like 12, 13 years ago now. Him and Reese, we used to ride all the time. Every chance I got, that same white horse my dad talked about, and her daughter's here with me still. I'd ride that horse every day just to get my head right. And now it's like, that's all I really want to do. I don't like doing a lot of things with people, but I love these horses. But to get back to this cowboy, so I'm gonna say, the history of it can go. You can see the history of it in the soldiers that were called Buffalo Soldiers. You can see the history in it with some of the events. You see it shows nowadays, bull riding. I mean, not bull riding, but what do they call that? I can't even think of the name of it, all the names of this stuff. But when you go to a rodeo, for example, most of the events that you see, those were the events learned and started by ex-slaves. like that, when you got a guy that's jumping off and wrangling a bull from a horse, from sitting on a horse's back, that was actually a black man that invented that. So you see him with the lasso, throwing and hitting it at the head and the other one hitting at the tail. Those events were invented by ex-slaves. And that was so when you have a big working ranch and a whole lot of cattle, you want to mark them and so people know who they belong to, so they can brand them and whatnot. To make it easier, these guys invented ways to catch these steers and cattle, brand them and stuff like that, so that the owner of the ranch could recognize its stock. Okay, but again, all that terminology as far as saying, oh, cowboy this, cowboy that, is only meant for the black man until maybe 40s or 50s. Then it started being something where a white man wanted to be called a cowboy, right along with the era of John Wayne. But prior to that, that was a derogatory term simply meant for a black cowman, a horseman. What I am a part of is a Black Cowboy Association. I'm also a ranch owner, and none of that came easy. We started with one horse between 3 people, me, my dad, and my brother. And it seems like the more we stayed around horses, the more horses came. The more people saw us with horses, the more that everybody else wanted to be around and ride. And so I started going to different trail rides and events. And like the one my dad was talking about is Tar Heel. That happens to be my grandfather's family. And I had been going out there 5 years to Triple B Ranch for their trail rides and had no idea that the Blackwells were my first cousins. It was a Julius Bird's mother's house is where Tar Heel Ranch is. And so I'll say maybe we don't have cowboy as a way of starting, but it definitely has been in our family for a long time, because they did ranches they had cattle, they still have cattle, but the main thing that they do now is these horses. BB throws trail ride out there once a year off of the Black Cowboy Association's list and the stuff that comes out annually. They have different rides all throughout the United States. It's not just the East Coast, it's Pennsylvania, Texas. You got guys that in June, when this ride is, I'm talking about like 10,000 people on one working ranch and stuff. And at no time have I ever been to a trail ride at Triple B that I have any problem. It's all like a big family. So when my dad tells you that's something that to be proud of, it really is. We get together like family. We might go out and ride the ride, come back, get cleaned up, and then there's a prayer, and then we all sit down and we eat together. And to see that many black men and women together with nobody arguing, fussing, fighting, is something to admire. And so, like I said, I've been going out there now, going on 12 years, because we started in 2001 with these horses, and had one horse, no saddle, no reins, no nothing. First time I went out riding, the saddle came apart, and by the time I got back to my dad's house with the horse, I was riding bareback. So from that day on, I have not borrowed a saddle. Even the one that, now I learned how to put them together and take them apart. So I found the cheapest one I could buy of my own, and every little piece I started going through it and learning how to do that to make sure that my gear is safe and sound, and so that way I wouldn't get hurt while I was out trying to enjoy myself. So I say this type of life has agreed with me, and to tell you the truth, like when we first started with the horses, like again, we didn't have all this land that we got now. We started out boarding our horse over at Mr. Wayne's and at Sergeant Major's out in Red Springs, and we'd be going to try and buy little different pieces and stuff, so we'd have our own instead of barn, and we kept running into more and more things as far as the horses. Then we run into more horses. People couldn't take care of them, couldn't feed them and stuff like that, but they weekend cowboys and stuff, and where we were turning into real cowboys, me, my dad, and my brother. And it was just something that we were proud to do. So we've come a long way, because like I said, now we have 32 acres here at Mosley Ranch. We just bought another 12 acres, and we haven't quite set that up yet. But when we first got here, it was all grass from the road all the way back to the back. We put the barn up, we put the fences up, ran wire, and found us different people that would sell us quality hay, quality feed, and we're just taking care of our animals the best way we can, and know how to.